Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise smarter. And I'd like to welcome back to the show our co-host all the way from Detroit, Michigan, Christy Pudick of PackYourPixieDust.com. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well. How are you?
I'm trying to say that faster and faster every time.
That was really fast.
It was. And I'm pretty excited. We're heading north. We're coming up towards the beautiful Pacific Northwest, one of your favorite cruises to talk about today.
It is one of my favorite. I'm super excited.
And I'd like to welcome to the show, hailing all the way from beautiful Reno, Nevada, Emily. How are you doing today, Emily?
I'm doing great.
Well, thanks so much for reaching out and coming on our show today. And we're going to get to talk about your family's second cruise with Disney Cruise Line on the Disney Wonder up to Alaska. So why don't you, before we jump into it, why don't you give us a little background about your family's, kind of who went on it and kind of your Disney connection?
Our trip party was my husband and I, and then our two teenagers. My daughter, Austin, is 17, and my son, Trevor's 18. And we planned this trip in celebration of their high school graduation. So Austin graduated a year early, so both of our kids graduated at the same time on the same day this June. So this was our celebration trip.
Super exciting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And so what was kind of your guys' Disney connection? Have you guys been going to, since you're on the West Coast, are you fans of Disneyland? And I know you've been on one other cruise, so we can talk about that real quick too, but how did you guys get connected with Disney?
We are definitely a Disney family. Our kids probably first, 10 years of their lives or so, we were, an annual trip to Disneyland type of family. That was our go-to, like, spring break type of excursion every year. And we sort of leaned away from that a little bit. I had a career change, and so our financial situation didn't allow for quite so many Disney trips. So our substitution for Disney became the U.S. national parks. So we have sort of alternated national parks and Disney. So choosing an Alaska cruise really made a lot of sense for us because we love the outdoors, we love being out in nature, and then obviously we love Disney too. So we went on a Disney cruise in 2010. We celebrated our son's 10th birthday. His 10th birthday was on 10/10/10.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we decided, a few years in advance that we should make a big blowout of it. And we went on a Disney cruise with my parents and our good friends. So that was our first Disney cruise. And we did a 4-day also on the Wonder, just a Nassau Castaway Cay cruise.
Well, now you're kind of, melding in both of your kind of loves, Disney and the national parks. I'm assuming this is the first time you guys have been up to Alaska then?
It is, yeah. It was our first time.
Okay, so kind of thinking about this, Alaska's a big change of destination. There's a little bit more maybe moving parts, thinking about what you're going to pack and what you're going to bring. How did you guys plan for this cruise? What were some of the resources you used, and how did you guys plan to sail up to Alaska?
Well, yeah, besides listen to every single episode of the DCL podcast, I'm just
Thank
kidding.
You.
We did a lot of YouTube as families. As a family, we would sit in front of the TV together and watch people's trip vlogs, and that gave us a lot of ideas. And yeah, we kind of all dove in, and we have these young adult children who have lots of ideas and opinions and really good research skills. So they helped out a lot too.
That's a good point. Your kids are a little bit older. Did you allow them to kind of, before we get into like all the specifics, but did you allow them to kind of figure out what they wanted to do or what you guys wanted to do as a family in each one of the ports?
Yeah, we did. We sort of showed them what all the available options were and what each port was known for, and then they sort of looked at pictures. We would pull up someone's YouTube videos about, say, like Ketchikan, and then we would all watch it, and then my daughter would say, "Oh, I really want to go to Creek Street," or whatever, and then we would kind of decide from there.
Christy, have you ever done that, Christy?
Ask Blake
Yes.
through YouTube videos what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Nope, can't say that I have.
We actually did that on our first cruise, believe it or not, because we kind of came down to, it was a little bit more basic though, not quite as detailed probably as you guys went into, Emily, but I think it was in Ketchikan. We're like, no, it was in Skagway. And we asked our oldest, our youngest, okay, these are your options. What do you guys want to do? And our youngest is a huge dog fan, so he wanted to see sled dog puppies, so he went and did that. And our oldest wanted to go ride ATVs, so I went with him and did that. So I think it's kind of a cool way to involve your kids once they get old enough to kind of be part of that planning process.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, when we first saw a YouTube video of someone's helicopter dog sled excursion, our mouths were agape. And then I found the price.
Yeah.
Felt like, oh, maybe that's not in our budget. But cool for the people who get to do it.
Christy, you sailed up to Alaska last time. What are some of your tips as far as packing and kind of planning for that Alaskan sailing?
Layers. And I think you actually told me that before our trip. I think layers were the key, so we wanted to have options where we could have more layers and have a really small winter hat. So when my head gets cold, my kid's head gets cold. And then also really thin gloves. But then also I wanted shorts and a T-shirt because we knew in the summer that some of the time it may be shorts and T-shirt weather. So layers is the key.
The other thing I'd throw out there is make sure you have some good shoes, maybe some waterproof typing shoes, especially if you're going to go up on the glacier, you're going to be doing some hikes. Just like you said, you never know if it's going to be sunny and hot or rainy and a little bit cool. So having kind of a good pair of shoes, something maybe other than just tennis shoes, is kind of a good thing to think about as well. Was there anything that stood out for you, Emily, that you're glad you brought with or that you didn't bring with?
We had sort of a unique experience. You know, we were very prepared with the layers, and we ended up on the year of the Alaskan heat wave, and we had almost no rain whatsoever on our whole trip. And so our brand new boots and jackets never got worn.
Did you leave the tags on them?
Unfortunately, no, we did not. We had tried everything on and used it already. So, you know, we have rain jackets if we ever decide to go back.
So I had actually read this or heard it from somebody before my trip that some people actually brought their waterproof shoes, their waterproof like hiking boots. Then they either left them in the box or didn't wear them outside unless they thought it was going to rain. And if you had enough packing space, I think that's a brilliant plan because those shoes are expensive. But I didn't have the option to bring like hiking shoes that maybe weren't the waterproof or even regular sneakers plus hiking shoes. That was way too much luggage. But that might be a tip for somebody that has enough space.
So speaking of space, you guys are in Reno, and all of the cruises on the Disney Wonder to Alaska leave out of Vancouver. How did you guys get up there? Did you drive or did you fly?
We drove, so it worked out timing-wise. My nephew was celebrating his first birthday on the day before we embarked on our cruise. So we actually left Reno, and they live in Portland. We drove up there to Portland, and we stayed in Portland for 2 nights. And then on the day before our cruise, we just took off and then drove to Vancouver, BC, from Vancouver, Washington to Vancouver, BC.
The 2 Vancouvers. So, yeah, definitely. So you guys get up there. Where did you guys stay the night? This is a big question we always get to, like where to stay and what did you do with your car? We ended up parking right underneath Canada Place where you leave from, but what did you guys do?
Yeah, so we stayed in a hotel in a town, if I recall correctly, it's called Richmond, BC, and it was a Holiday Inn Express. And it was a really nice hotel, breakfast included, comfortable room, very, very clean, new. And it also was adjacent to a large, like, youth hockey tournament facility that had, in addition to that, a movie theater, a trampoline park. Like, it was kind of a neat destination. If someone was driving up there, it would be sort of a cool place to stay with some stuff for kids to do the night before.
Did you guys do that then, or?
No. By the time we got in, I think we crossed the border at like 9:30. And so things were kind of closing around 10. So we did not get to do it, but we definitely wished we could.
So just for everybody's know, Richmond is where Vancouver's airport is, Vancouver International. So if you fly in there, that's actually where you land. So that would be actually pretty easy to do that too if you had a day, if you didn't want to venture into the city and you just wanted to stay maybe something a little bit cheaper out in Richmond with some different activities there. They actually have a huge skating rink for when they had the Olympics up there that's right by the airport too for speed skating, and that's got some pretty cool stuff that you can go in and take a tour of as well if anybody's I know that's kind of niche speed skating fans. But there's some pretty cool,
Exist.
yeah, there are some pretty cool things to do in Richmond. So the day of your cruise, then, did you guys drive up and drop your car off up there, or how'd you guys get up to the port?
Yeah, we just took off in the morning. I think our embarkation time or port arrival time was like 1 o'clock. It was a little on the late side. And so I think we left our room at like 11:30, kind of trying to leave room for traffic. And we just drove into Vancouver, and I had prepaid for parking at Canada Place. So we just went up there and we embarked on what turned out to be a rather confusing journey to find where exactly we were to park. But so they had emailed me a confirmation email with a barcode, and they said you had to have the printed barcode in order to park. And so we had the barcode, and we went around the block, maybe 5 times before we finally saw the sign where parking was. We asked people, we asked uniformed security people, someone directing traffic, someone working at another tourist outlet down there, and nobody could tell us where we were supposed to go to park. It was odd. And we realized we were basically driving around too small of a block. It was just a little bit like a half a block above where we kept on turning in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What tip would you give someone to find that spot in the future?
I used the directions that my vehicle's GPS provided us to go to Canada Place, but there were directions printed in the confirmation email. And I think if I had followed those to the letter, it would have been much clearer. But I just put Canada Place in my GPS, and it took me there, and it was not taking me up the street where I could see the parking signs.
So on top of parking, it can be a little tricky getting up and into, to be completely honest, just to get checked in as well. How did that go?
It went okay. And again, I kept on, because of that early confusion with the parking, we never felt like quite settled. Like I didn't know if I was in the right place. I was just, I don't know, a little overwhelmed, I guess, and very excited and trying to sort out all of those feelings, I guess. But, once we got in, we pulled in, and the porter comes, they sort of have you park in like a little marked out parking space, and a porter comes right to your car to take your things. So we didn't even have to take our bags out of the car. They did that for us. And then my husband took the car into where to park. And still, again, the porter didn't know where he should go. And when he got into the parking area, nobody knew where he could scan the barcode.
Oh.
So we spent our cruise a little tiny bit nervous that we had parked in the wrong place. But I'll spoil the surprise. We didn't. We parked in the right place.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah. When we left, the man who opened the gate for us to leave was like, why didn't they scan this when you came in? And we're like, we don't know why. we asked so many people and nobody could tell us. So I don't know what we did wrong, but we were all okay in the end. So it was no big deal.
Well, I'm glad that worked out. So moral of the story, I guess, if you're driving into Canada Place, make sure you leave yourself plenty of time to get up there and get kind of situated. Because it can be kind of confusing. All right. So you guys get back on board the Wonder. It's been 9 years since you've been on board. Or what were your thoughts as you guys came on board?
We were so excited. I have to tell you, when we checked in, I saw navigators there on the counter, and I snuck them back to my kids, and we were just so excited. And then they gave us our Key to the World cards, and I saw that we were going to Tiana's the first night, and handed it to my daughter, and we were so excited. Tiana's was what we were looking forward to. And then she handed us a boarding card with the boarding number. I think we were number 19. And then she goes, don't worry about the number. It's free boarding. And so we were on the ship, in maybe 5 minutes after that. And so we were just elated. The excitement was so big in that moment because of how quick it went after we got up to the front. So that was really exciting. And then the Wonder has gone under, pretty significant changes since we were there before. So we just took a few minutes, acquaint ourselves, and it was really cool to see everything that was new and how beautiful the ship is.
What cabin did you end up choosing? And since you have 2 older kids, did you pick one cabin or did you go with 2?
We went with 2, and we did 2 inside staterooms. So we did the most basic inside staterooms, and we were on deck 6.
And how do you feel like that worked out for your family?
I have to tell you, I was a little bit nervous because almost every single other person I heard on a YouTube video or a podcast that talked about Alaska said, you have to have a veranda in Alaska. And so I was a little nervous, but this was what was in our budget. So, and to make my 6'1" son sleep on a pull-out bunk just did not seem like it would be very nice of me.
Yeah.
So we really needed to have 2 rooms, but you know what? It was awesome. We loved it. And having 2 rooms, since my son is 18 and my daughter's 17, we had to book it. My daughter and I in one room and my husband and my son in the other. But, you know, we found no one came to do bed checks at night of who was sleeping in which room. So the kids had their room and we had ours, even though it was registered the other way. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
No, you can say that. Did you have them swap your keys around or make extra keys for you?
We did. On the first day, we went to guest services and they gave us 1 extra key for each room. So I carried the key for the room I was sleeping in and my son carried the key for the room he was sleeping in. And we had a lot of fun. I mean, we kind of lived communally between the 2 rooms. We would order room service and hang out in one, and then we'd watch a movie and hang out in the other. It was, we were together, and we also made a funny little family game of prank calling each other's rooms, which was a blast.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was very silly.
But the names are on the phone. It shows who's calling.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it was sort of like, my daughter would call over and my husband would answer and he would say hello. And she would say, is this the FBI? And he'd go, I'll transfer you. And then hand the phone to me. Just lots of silly, just funny games.
Fun.
Yeah.
Good family fun. Well, we stayed in an inside stateroom too when we went to Alaska. My parents had a balcony, so we were able to go out on theirs a little bit. But we're not a family that usually spends a lot of time in the room. So there's so many places as you're kind of cruising along, as you're out and about, that you can really see the scenery. Did you feel, I mean, I know you talked about it being in your budget, but did you feel like it impacted you guys at all? Or were you happy with it? I was really happy with it. And honestly, I think in a way it made us enjoy the ship even more. We didn't have that balcony to, I would have loved to sit on the balcony of my own room and look at the scenery all day. But this way, I sort of was challenged from my, sort of homebody ways to go out and do a little bit more. And so I think it was really fun. I enjoyed it. If we cruise again, I think we would probably do the same setup.
Did you ever watch the outside on your TV?
Sometimes, yeah.
Because I feel like I would just leave that on all the time. Anytime I was in the room, not watching a movie or something, I would just leave the view to the outside on.
We did, and I used it to check the weather and stuff like that, just to have a peek outside.
Well, let's turn to dining then. You talked about Tiana's. What were you guys' overall thoughts of the main dining rooms, and what did you think? We had a great experience. I have food allergy. I'm allergic to nuts and shellfish, so I got very above and beyond special treatment for my allergy meals, much more careful than I even would be myself. So that was wonderful. And the first night it delayed our meals a little bit, but not, after that, everything was good. And we loved our servers and we had great meals. Actually, we loved our servers so much. There was one day I was tired and I thought it would be kind of fun to just get a sandwich and go swimming and skip our main dining room seating. And my daughter said, absolutely not. I cannot not show up for Willie and Jensen. They need us there. So it was very important to our kids that they were in that dining room every opportunity. With your kids being older, did you guys do the early or the late dining? We did late dining. And did that work out pretty good for you guys? It worked out great, yeah. It was good. I think if I recalled from our first cruise that we kind of felt like we were just overfed. And I think that extra couple of hours or hour and a half later that dinner is, it lets you enjoy for me anyway, let me enjoy my dinner more because I was just a little bit hungrier after having eaten so well the whole cruise. So you mentioned earlier that you were really excited about Tiana's place. How did you feel that went? Did it live up to your expectations?
Yes, it absolutely did. We loved the food and we adored the music. It was just it was a great first night and a great experience.
So how many nights did you end up eating there?
We were in Tiana's twice. And then I think the restaurant we had 3 times was Triton's.
Perfect. You get that escargot 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Big time.
Steve and his escargot. Well, she talked about the yummy food, and all I could think of was, did you get the chicken schnitzel? So I guess we just have our things that we are really excited about.
I'm trying to work that in every show. Your chicken schnitzel and my escargot.
So did you get chicken schnitzel?
I didn't. I feel so ashamed of myself right now, to be honest.
Well, I mean, literally, my husband and I talked about chicken schnitzel at dinner today, that we are going to make it one day so we can have our own at-home chicken schnitzel.
Did you guys go to Palo then on this cruise?
We did. Sort of a complication of having one 17-year-old child and one 18-year-old child is that our daughter could not go to Palo. And so what we did is my husband and I did a Palo brunch on our second day, the sea day, and then my son and I did a Palo dinner on our third day.
Oh, so you got to do both.
I got to go twice.
How did you get to be the lucky parent that got to have both meals?
I know we kind of drew straws, and I just got super lucky, I guess. We knew we didn't want to leave our daughter alone, and so, and my son, he loves to cook and he loves to eat good food, so he was thrilled to be able to do this. So I don't know. We debated on, it could have been him going twice. It could have been, it could have been any combination, but that was what we landed on.
Nice. And so then what night of dinner did you pick to have that?
We skipped for the dinner. We skipped the frozen night. So that was the night that we were at the glacier, day 3.
Okay.
So it was the Norway inspired menu that we missed.
Maybe it was the chicken schnitzel night.
It might have been. Darn it.
I'm pretty sure chicken schnitzel is German, but...
Well, yeah, but it's all from Europe.
All right. Well, before we turn to Alaska itself, which is just an amazing, journey to go on and in the scenery and whatnot, what were some of the things that you guys are looking forward to doing as a family on board, some of the different activities? And I wonder, what did your kids do since they're a little bit older? Did they go to the clubs? Now, your oldest, I can't remember now, that he's too old to go to the Edge, or the Vibe, excuse me. What did they end up doing, and what did you guys do?
Yeah, so we did go and do the registration. Like, we took my daughter up to register for the teen club, and I think she went to like mixers or getting to know you one time, but ended up not really deciding to go back there. And my son considered going to 1820 Society meetups a couple times, and again, ultimately decided not to. But they had a great time. They were fully entertained on the ship, never without something to do. So it was an option available that they didn't feel like they really needed because they were so entertained doing other things.
Are they pretty close? Do they do a lot together?
Yeah, they are really close. They're 15 months apart. So they've pretty much been in the same sports team, same classes for most of their lives. So they're they're close and they hang out together all the time. So it was good for them.
Are they going on to college?
Yeah, my daughter is going to stay here in Reno and go to community college. Since she graduated a year, she's early. She's not really ready to leave home. And then my son is actually going to San Francisco to do a 9-month-long community service internship next year.
Nice. I was just kind of curious if they're going to do something together, if they're going on together at the same time, too. So.
I know. It'll be their first time. Yeah, it'll be their first time separated. I know.
Well, how about you and your husband? What were some of the things that you guys enjoyed on board? One
big thing was bingo. I wanted to play bingo on our first cruise so much. And, on a 4-day cruise, the first time you've ever been there just isn't enough time to do all those things. And so we made bingo a priority and did that early on. And then we also just drank up trivia. I mean, we went to every trivia we possibly could. So that was a blast. And my daughter and I, we are destined to win the Disney Songs trivia someday. I just know it.
Just not yet.
Just not this trip, but the next one for sure.
It's amazing.
He was dying to know if you got that medal.
Yeah, it's amazing the competition on there. You'll get like 18 correct, and you're like, man, we were in there, and then somebody's got 19 or 20.
Yeah, that was pretty much exactly what happened to us.
Yeah, but a lot of fun though too. So
yeah, we had a blast.
Well, one of the special things that they do, at least they did for ours, I think they're still doing it, is they usually have a national park spokesman on board that comes on and can give you some background on Alaska. Did they have that on board for you guys? And did you go and take in any of the shows or talks that they gave?
They did, yeah. And yeah, my husband and I went to, I think, 2 of the naturalist talks and really enjoyed them. And then the ones that we were not able to attend, we watched on the TV in our room. So we definitely got all that information. And that's the kind of stuff we love. So it worked out good for us. The kids were not particularly interested, but that was okay.
The life of salmon. They didn't want to learn about that?
No,
No, it's pretty fascinating. And that's a good tip, too, that they put that back on the TV as well. So if you miss the talk at some point during the week, you could always catch up on some of the things that you missed.
Yeah, and it was good. The naturalist talks were sort of timed with the journey. So the day before the glacier day talked about the animals and things that you would see as you went up the fjord. So it was really helpful to see it that day and get that information and to know what to look for if you were looking for whales and stuff like that. It was really informational.
Well, great. So let's move into the actual cruise itself. So it starts off in Vancouver. Were you guys up there for the sail away? I think that's a great sail away as you leave downtown and go underneath the bridge. Were you guys up there for that?
Yeah, we were. And that was a big thing, that going under the bridge was really, really cool to see and to experience. So yeah, we enjoyed the sail away party. It was fun.
And from there, you guys have your first day at sea. The Wonder, the majority of and I'm guessing this was for you guys too, but somebody just was recently on board and they said they got a little rocky the first day and then I think it's the last day. So you're in the inside passage for most of the time, but there is one small portion where you actually got to see, so you could have a little bit of rocking. Did you notice that at all, that first day at sea?
A tiny bit, but it was very minimal, incredibly minimal. Our first cruise, we were sailing in October in the Caribbean and we had a tropical storm. So it was absolutely nothing compared to what we had on our first cruise. So I thought it was hardly noticeable at all.
Well, there you go. You guys were salty veterans. You guys were ready for everything, right?
Yeah. Our first one was a little bit much.
And you chose to do it again, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about sailing up the Inside Passage. That's, I think, one of the most magical parts of this cruise is just being so close to the land, seeing the scenery, some of the boats and stuff. What were your thoughts as you sailed up the Inside Passage?
Oh, it was incredibly beautiful. I mean, we had evenings where we would sit out on deck 4 on a lounge chair, and they put blankets out on every lounger, which was awesome. And we would just sit out there with our legs covered up the blanket, and you can see, all kinds of wildlife and glaciers and, lighthouses and floating ice. And it was gorgeous. I mean, every minute it was beautiful. My kids also did not hate being so close to land because sometimes out on deck there was cell service.
It's up there, kind of like the modern day fishing. Instead of fishing for fish, you're looking for cell service, so you can get that email or text out.
Yeah, exactly. You want to Snapchat your friends,
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Well, okay, so then you come up to day 3. You guys head up the Dawes Glaciers. It's the big glacier day. Kind of talk about that day and kind of how they set it up and what did you guys experience?
I think that there was a really good naturalist presentation that morning, if I'm recalling correctly, and really, let us know what to look for and what to... Oh, I'm remembering something. I forgot. My daughter and I had a massage that day. We went to the spa. Okay, sorry. When we went into the fjord, we were really amazed by the view and spent a lot of time out on deck. We actually tried to go to lunch and have a sit-down lunch at Triton's, and just sitting with my little limited peekaboo view of the outside, I had to get up and leave. Like, we finished our entrees and just left because I couldn't stand sitting inside anymore watching that view go by. So we just sat out on the deck and enjoyed it. And we did fight the crowd to get up front to get a picture of the glacier, but for a few minutes. But other than that, we just, deck 4 on this trip was our home, the promenade deck where you could just sit, and there's usually not very many people out there. So we hung out there almost every day.
I know in the past they've done the barbecue, and I know you've got food allergies, so maybe that wouldn't have worked for you, but do you know, did they do the barbecue on the back of the ship the day that they went up on the glacier?
I don't think so. That was something that I was looking for. It wasn't in our navigator, so I assumed that was no longer an offering because I didn't see it.
It's too bad if they discontinued it, because that was a great way, like you're saying, instead of having to go down inside the ship to eat or possibly fight with the Cabanas crowd, it was a great way to get food and then just be able to spend the whole time up on deck, so you could continually like hear the narration as you came up the fjord and also just to experience the whole beauty of it. But that's too bad if they discontinued that.
Yeah, it was a bummer. I would have really liked some barbecued salmon. That sounded good to me.
They also, on that day, they moved the kids club up to the top sports deck, and I know they do kind of a mini camp up there so that the kids, they get them outside in the fresh air, I guess if it's not raining, have them do some games up there, which is kind of a cool thing that they do as well for people with younger kids. So I think our youngest went, and actually both our kids, they did it for a little bit, and they were playing dodgeball, but then they got out and they wanted to swim, so we just kind of stood by the side and watched them swim and took in the scenery. So that was kind of a fun day. Christy, any thoughts about going up to the glacier?
It's just one of the most amazing days ever.
So from the glacier, then you guys head down, and your first stop is in Skagway. What were your thoughts? How did you want to attack Skagway, and what did you guys do there?
I didn't book anything for Skagway, and the big reason for that was being from Nevada, mountain mining culture is local culture for us. And all of the Skagway excursions reminded me of things that we have very close to home, like, the train. We have the V&T Railroad here that you can, go up to Virginia City. So ultimately we decided not to book anything for Skagway, and we just kind of kicked around town and enjoyed the shops. We were huge fans of the hardware store.
Oh. We'll talk about the hardware store. What did you guys find there?
Well, they have a little souvenir section in front that sort of draws you in, but then we wandered that whole entire store. It's huge. And they sell everything. Like, they have furniture and party supplies, and they mix paint, and they sell guns, and everything you can possibly imagine in that store. So we had a good old time walking around and looking at what they had in that store.
It's like an upscale Meijer. Is Meijer everywhere? Like a 24-hour store that sells everything?
No, it's like Ace Hardware. It's like an old Ace Hardware. But then they had like housewares department, parties department. It's sort of like, picture like an old country grocery store and an Ace Hardware put together.
Did you guys eat off the ship at all on any of the stops? Did you do anything like that in Skagway?
In Skagway, the only thing, it was very hot that day, like punishingly hot, very humid. And so we had, I think, smoothies, ice cream, and shave ice.
Oh, they get shave ice there too.
So, we didn't eat a meal, but we had lots of snacks.
Did you get that at the hardware store?
That would be awesome. They have soft serve ice cream at the hardware store. It wouldn't surprise me, but no, we got it at other shops.
I know there's some pretty good hikes that are pretty close to town too. And I mean, one of the great things about Alaska is the fact that for the most part, on most of these ports, you can just walk right off, and it's just a little bit of a walk into town. So it's pretty easy to do that. I know there's some hikes just on the outskirts of town too. So there's a lot of things that you can do at most of these ports too, that if you don't want to spend the money necessarily on an excursion, there's a lot of things you can fill your time with.
Yeah. Our server at Palo had told us the night before about a walk across the train tracks, and there's a cemetery and a lot of places to walk. And that was something we were interested in, but the heat turned out to be a factor in choosing to go back to the ship and go swimming.
When you say heat, how hot was it?
I think it was like 87.
Okay. Something
like that. It was in the 80s.
Which I know that doesn't sound like burning hot, but there's something about being further north when it gets that hot. The sun feels like it's just melting you, doesn't it?
It did, and it was just super duper humid, so we were very sweaty.
Well, from Skagway, then you guys are on down to the capital of Alaska, down to Juneau. What did you guys have planned there, and what did you do?
Our kind of plan for this cruise was that each person could pick one shore excursion. So in Juneau, my daughter and I wanted to go whale watching, so we went whale watching.
And how did that go?
Oh, it was awesome. It was really good. We booked it. We did not book through Disney. We booked it on our own. And I felt the process went really great. I mean, they still picked us up right at the ship. They, transported us out to where the whale watching vessel picks you up, and they brought us back. So it went really seamless in that way. And I didn't have any anxiety about booking the excursion on my own or not having a protection of, I trusted that they would get us back on time and we wouldn't have to worry about anything like that because they were so professional and everything was so a well-oiled machine.
Do you know who the tour was with?
Our tour was with Harv and Marvs was the name of the company. And we have a friend who is very avid whale watcher. She actually goes to Hawaii for multiple weeks every winter just to whale watch. And she was the one who recommended Harv and Marvs. And it was a great recommendation. We really liked them. The vessels are smaller. So I think there were only like 18 people on our boat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And that is a company that is recommended by, there's a bunch of like Alaska cruise groups on Facebook and things like that. And that is a company that a lot of those people recommend that go over and over and over again.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. And there was a naturalist on board the whale watching boat too. So she, taught us a lot about the whales that we saw, the sea lions that we saw. We were educated the whole time in addition to being taken out to see whales. So it was awesome. And we saw, I think, 5 humpback whales and then a pod of orcas.
Wow. Yeah,
it was amazing.
I think you're the first person that's been on that talked about the orcas. Were they jumping out, or were they just kind of breaching, or what were they doing?
They mostly, there were so many of them. They would the humpbacks. You kind of have to wait like 10 minutes or so between breaths when you can kind of see them there. But the orcas, there's a lot of them together, so they come up every minute or even less. And there was one big male who rolled over on his side and flapped the water with his fin. And so, yeah, it was really neat. It was really, really cool to see. But we didn't get any big splashy breaches or anything like that.
That's so cool, though.
Can I go off on a total side tangent?
Of course.
So I used to live in West Seattle a long time ago when I first started flying, when I got on with Alaska. And there was a walkway there that you could run on, and so I used to run on that every day when I got back. And there was one evening I was running along, and there's 2 pods of orcas that come into Puget Sound. They're having some problems with them right now. There's some health problems with them, unfortunately, but this is probably 15 years ago. But I remember one night running along, it was in the evening, kind of dusk, and all of a sudden I looked to the right, and there was this huge pod of orcas that were just going along with me as I was running along. So for probably about 15 minutes as I was running, I was just watching these orcas kind of move as they're kind of moving through the water. It was amazing. Those are beautiful creatures if you can ever see them in the wild like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's the only time I've ever seen them. It was just amazing. So good on you for being able to see those. So anything else in Juneau then, other than the whale watching?
My husband and my son went out to Mendenhall Glacier. So they took, I think, an Uber over there, and they took the little hike to Nugget Falls, and they really enjoyed it. They had a good time, and I think the cost for the Uber was somewhere around $30 per direction. So they drove out there and came back, and they had a good time there.
It's just, isn't it amazing? You think about Alaska as this far off, majestic place, and you can take an Uber to get to the glacier.
Yeah.
That is
it's like what you do everywhere, and you're taking it to a glacier.
We even saved money because we did an Uber share. So
yeah, you totally could have done that from the port.
That's funny. Yeah. All right. So from Juneau, then you guys move on to Ketchikan. What do you guys have planned there?
So in Ketchikan, that was my husband and my son's port excursion day. They did this thing. I'm trying to remember what it's called exactly, but they're basically ATVs. The company is called Kowanti Adventures. They got to do this ATV drive on a dirt road up to the top of a mountain and back, and they had a blast doing that.
And then what did you and your daughter do?
We just walked around town, and we looked in shops, and we knew that it was kind of our last chance stop to get our Alaska souvenirs since the last day was a sea day. So we got, gifts for people that we wanted to, the people who watched our dog and friends and stuff like that. And yeah, we just enjoyed Ketchikan.
Did you guys go down to Creek Street?
We did, and it was really cool. We saw people fishing off a bridge at Creek Street, and we got to see a salmon that was probably 4 feet long right at the surface of the water. And when he saw, like, it was like the salmon perceived he was about to be fished, then he dove down.
That's awesome.
But it was really cool to see it right at the surface of the water like that. It was really neat.
Christy, did you guys go to Creek Street when you were in Ketchikan?
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's okay. Yeah, it's kind of like the famous street. It's kind of, I mean, it's original, I think, still for the most part from what it was like when Ketchikan was first built, and now it's just like mostly shops. I'm not sure if there's we haven't been down there, but we really haven't talked about it too much. So I was kind of curious. So obviously, there's fishing down there too, huh, Emily?
Yeah, people fish right from the bridge in town. I think, it's a thing. I don't know if you need a license or anything, but yeah, it was really neat just to go down there and watch people doing it.
Well, let's kind of backtrack before we talk about your last day at sea, because you talked about doing a spa on the day that you went up to the glacier. What time did you do? Did you guys do that in the morning? And were you able to, I'm not even sure on the one that I've never had a massage, I guess, but I know like on the Dream and the Fantasy, if you do the rainforest room, you can actually go out and see. There's areas where you can see off the ship, or there's windows or whatnot. Is it like that while you were in the spa? Were you able to see the scenery as you were kind of doing that?
Yeah, actually, it was kind of interesting because since my daughter's under 18, she wanted to do a chill spa treatment, which is what they call the sort of teen spa menu, is the chill spa. And I think on the Fantasy and the Dream, they have a whole separate space called the chill spa. But on the Wonder and the Magic, it's just a separate menu and maybe like one treatment room.
Okay.
So you cannot book chill spa treatments online in advance of your cruise. So we had to go on the first day to the spa to book it. And the time they had available was the glacier day at 8 a.m.
Oh, no.
So it turned out that we were in, she and I, we felt a little upsold, to be honest, against our will. We booked a mother-daughter half body massage, which I thought would be like back and shoulders. But they booked us in a regular couples massage room, and we ended up with the mother-daughter full body massage instead of the half.
Oh, so then that also meant that you had the full body massage price.
Yes, but I mean, it was more than we were planning to spend, but it was a great experience. And there's, obviously you have 2 separate therapists in there and you're in the room together, which I would assume, is a priority. If you have a teen, you're not going to want them to go into a room alone with the therapist. It was, there was a view of the ocean right from the room. There's a little deck there with a private hot tub, which we were not allowed to use, but I could imagine it would be amazing to be able to use it, but just the view alone was beautiful.
And was it lovely?
It was lovely. I don't know that I would necessarily do it again, only because
you could have gone on a helicopter tour for the same price.
No, I mean, I think it was about like $110 each.
Oh,
something
that's
like that. It wasn't too bad, but we have because of Reno's gambling casino culture, we have amazing spas in town. So it's something I do periodically at home, and I think it was a good experience, but I may not do it again that way.
Well, getting up at 8 o'clock, that's kind of tough to do, but it sounds like, I mean, at least you're getting a spa out of it if you're getting up that early, or a massage out of it. So, and then it kind of leads you into the rest of the day at the glacier. But let's turn back to your last day at sea then. What did you guys have planned? These trips are, you look at it, it's like, oh, wow, we got 7 whole days. And the next thing you know, you're at that last day at sea. What did you guys want to do that last day to kind of, put an end to your cruise?
We just wanted to relax and enjoy the ship. I encourage everyone to pack kind of early so that we wouldn't end up having to scramble in the evening to go back and pack. So we tried to get that done in the morning, and then we went to different trivias and just enjoyed, just relax. I mean, we did our fair share of relaxing on this trip. So, did back to our deck 4 tradition, just sit and have an ice cream cone or a cup of cocoa. And it was a good day, but we were tired too after 3 days in port.
And I think that is one of the things that I really look for, although it doesn't always work out that way. But man, if you can find a cruise where you have a day at sea before you get off, I think that's awesome, because it just gives you that one more day to relax before you head back to the real world, I guess, in some ways. And like you said, it's pretty busy in those port days. I remember just sitting there with my oldest son down on deck 4-2 and watching this fishing boat and some kayakers go by, and that was just amazing. The scenery was just so beautiful up there. So
there's no shortage of things to see on deck any day on this cruise. So we just enjoyed the heck out of sitting out there and just watching things go by.
Well, you spoiled the end. You get back to Vancouver and you found your car, huh?
We found it. Yeah, everything was fine. We were not towed away.
Thank God.
As well.
So anything about the last day getting off the ship and finding your car and then heading back towards Reno? Did you spend another day in the city, or what did you guys do?
No, we found our car and we started heading back. We stayed with friends in the Seattle area that night. So what I thought was going to be, a relatively short drive from Vancouver, BC to Seattle took us about like 7 hours because of traffic. So we spent the majority of our day just driving. We had a little bit of a complicated border crossing because we actually got off this cruise and it was Canada Day.
Oh.
And there were a lot of people at the border. So it took a while to get through the border.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Anybody driving, it's about a 3-hour drive between Seattle and Vancouver. Yeah, 3-hour tour, exactly. But if you're going to drive up there, you definitely go up there the day before, because that border crossing can be tight. And just like every place else in America, traffic has just gotten so bad in the Seattle area that it can take you a long time, especially if you fly into Seattle just to get north of the city. And then you got the border crossing. I think once you get across the border in Canada, it's generally a little bit better. But boy, the Washington side has just gotten crazy out here.
It was quite a drive.
Yeah. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time. I've got a couple questions for you, I guess, before we finish up. Christy, anything else that you have for the cruise itself?
One thing we didn't touch on are the shows. Did you guys go to the shows in the evening?
We did. We only went to the Disney ones. So we passed on there were a couple of, I think, magicians, something like that. And we decided not to attend the other ones, but we went to the 3 Disney shows, which was, I guess, the Golden Mickeys, Frozen, and Disney Dreams.
Yep, you got them.
Yeah. So, we went to those, and we enjoyed all of them. We thought they were great. My son didn't really like that they were like a variety show and they didn't all have a plot. He was like, there was no plot. But, we still thought the shows were great. Yeah. And Frozen, just sit in the front half of the theater. I won't say why, but you have to sit in the front half of the theater.
Yeah, no spoilers here.
Get yelled at for spoilers.
No, it would. So overall, everybody loved the show, other than the fact there was no plots, huh?
Yeah. Everybody had a great time. It was a good pace for us to do a show basically every other night. And then on the nights when we chose not to go to the show, we would do like, I don't know, room service snack or go to trivia or something like that. So it was a lot of fun.
I think that's one of those things, I remember the first time we went to every show every night, and it wasn't until like our second and maybe third cruise that we stopped going to some of the shows, and you start realizing all the other stuff that's going on there. So I think that's a good point there is, maybe pick a night or two, even if it's your first cruise, to maybe experience some of the other things. Because, those shows like in the D Lounge, get to know your family, or what's the marriage one? I can't remember what that one's a hilarious one.
Match Your Mate.
Match Your Mate, yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other really fun things to do in the evenings on the ship besides the shows. I'm not saying don't go to the shows, but don't be afraid to maybe not go one night and kind of experience some of those other things like you did, because I think that there's some pretty cool things to do.
Yeah, one cool thing that we did one night, I think after dinner, but we went to a silent DJ party.
Oh, yeah.
Where everyone gets headphones, so the music is in your headphones, and the room is quiet, but everyone's dancing. And it was wonderful and awkward, and I would do it again 100 times. It was amazing.
And did everybody participate in your family?
My daughter didn't. She wasn't feeling well that night. She was super tired. So it was just my husband and my son and I. And yeah, it was really funny.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's people singing, there's like, it was like Ice Ice Baby on the headphones, and they've been singing it. And if you take your headphones off a little bit, it was really entertaining. I found it to be delightful.
Well, that kind of segues into one of the questions I have. One of the things that a lot of people ask is, are my kids that are older, your daughter's 17, your son's 18, are they going to have a good time on a Disney cruise? And I guess what were your kids' thoughts, or what did they kind of share with you during the cruise and afterwards, as far as how did they like it, and do you think they'd do it again?
Yeah, actually, they want to go again, and they loved it. Even, one night we had a great time playing shuffleboard together, and it was sort of my son's, instigating. He said, so we can play shuffleboard or what, and so, they made the most of every opportunity, and the teen club and the 1820 Society wasn't for them on this cruise, but they loved so many other things, even just, hanging out and wandering around, the two of them together, while my husband and I sat somewhere, and then they would kind of do a lap and then come back to us or whatever. They had a great time.
And was there anything that we've missed?
I think the only other thing I was thinking about that I didn't say before was, I think it was the night that we left Juneau, there was heavy fog. It was so creepy. One of the creepiest things I've ever seen in my life. It was dark, and the whole deck on the outside was all fogged in. You couldn't really see that far, even on the deck of the ship. And then the ship was blowing its foghorn every few minutes. My husband just grabbed the railing of the ship and leaned out and said, yo ho, yo ho. And, it was very creepy. And that was one moment when we were, happy to go and be snuggled in our inside stateroom where we didn't have to think about the fog and wonder what else is out there lurking,
You guys are fun.
So Captain Jack didn't make an appearance on that.
No Captain Jack this time. Hopefully next time.
Well, sounds like just an awesome cruise for you guys. Did you guys take advantage of booking another one on board, or putting a placeholder down, or what's next for you guys?
Yeah, we did. We booked a placeholder, and we actually already have selected our next cruise. So we booked another cruise on the Wonder out of San Diego in September of 2020.
Nice.
There are 3 other ships.
I know. I love not having to fly on an airplane. Yeah. I don't know if we'll have to end up changing it, though, because of, kids' school schedules and stuff. There's a chance we won't be able to go that time, but for now, that's what we have.
Well, San Diego's an amazing city to cruise out of. Super easy, and who knows, maybe the Fantasy will be over here sometime soon, huh, Christy?
Still not going to happen. I'm going to have to eat Kroger one day, right? And the Fantasy actually is over there, and then you're going to say, look at all these podcasts, Christy. You said it wasn't going to happen.
Emily and I will be up on deck for toasting as we sail away out of San Diego on the Fantasy on that first cruise. So
yeah, you'll be by yourself. And that'll be the first and the last cruise they do there.
Oh man, no, good for you guys. Those are fun cruises too, down to Mexico. Was it a 4 or 5 day, or what did you guys pick?
Yeah, it's a 4-day, a 4-day to Cabo.
Okay, Cabo and Ensenada. Once again, Emily, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for being part of our podcast family, and thanks for sharing your experiences with us today. And if you guys make it on that Mexico cruise, or if you do something sooner, we'd love to have you come back and talk a little bit more Disney Cruise Line with you. Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. And once again, I really want to thank Emily for coming on and sharing her and her family's just amazing cruise as they headed north to Alaska on the beautiful Disney Wonder. I think that pretty much wraps up most of our Alaska sailings and recordings that we've had this year. And as we head on into December, I know we've got a couple listeners out there who are heading out on very maritime cruises, so be on the lookout for that once they get back and we can get those recorded. If you would like to help support our show, you can do so in 2 ways. One, through our Patreon program. If you're interested, you can go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all about it there. We are a sponsor-free program, so if you are interested in supporting us, you can do so there. Also, if you go over to iTunes and leave an iTunes review, we sure do appreciate that. that helps us get the message out in the podcasting community, the Disney community, and the cruising community about our podcast. We actually did a show today with a listener who found our show through a recommendation through iTunes, so those reviews do have an impact. So once again, we really appreciate you taking the time to go over and do that. Well, between now and our next show, if you and your family are heading out on your next vacation, all of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on that next adventure. Once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.